Welcome to York Cemetery, and I am allowed to remove my mask for this bit. The concert of 2021. We're delighted that this year we have again a live audience. Smaller than usual, but at least we have a live audience. For those watching on live stream, perhaps should explain that it is smaller. We are all wearing masks in the chapel here, and except for when the performers come, we will keep our masks on and sing. The Minster do it that way, so we'll follow their example. The double doors will remain open during the concert. Sadly, Quodlibet cannot be with us, but we're delighted that Cantorelli, based in Leeds, have agreed to come instead, and thank you, Jeremy, for being our go-between there. The eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed that there isn't a Dorothy Penso drama at the end of the programme. Dorothy hasn't been well, and you may spot 2 or 3 dialogues that will pop up which are classic Dorothy during the concert. Other absentees are Sheila and Hilary, who've prepared and served the punch and mince pies for many years, but are not here today to do it. No worries, there will be punch and mince pies. The novice team have got together. We hope the taste is appropriate, and they will follow at the end of the concert. We have just had a last-minute withdrawal from John Houseman, who is on the programme as a reader. He's not well, and Claire, his daughter, is going to substitute for him. It's very last minute. She hasn't had any practice really, so we'll fingers crossed and see how we go. It will be fine. So, who is here tonight? Cantorelli, as I've said, based in Leeds, and I'm sure they will be very, very able substitutes for Quodlibet. We have a return visit from Bolton Percy handbell ringers. Welcome. And of course, we have our regular keyboard player, Robin Dixon, and he will be leading us in our singing. Can I ask people, please, to make sure that their mobiles are all turned off? The theme of this year's concert is the origins of carols. Listen carefully, and you may learn something new. Who knows? And now we move on to our first carol, Once in Royal David City.
this is Luke's story of the birth of Jesus and the shepherds' encounter with the angels. Exciting stuff. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And all went to be taxed, every one into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee and out of the city of Nazareth unto Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, because he was of the house and lineage of David, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the fields, keeping watch over their flocks by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said to them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said unto one another, Let us now go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which is made to pass, which the Lord hath made known unto us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph, and the babe lying in a manger.
Each year, at around this time, we pick up our carol sheets and sing together some of our most loved carols. But have you ever thought how carols started? How the singing of carols got going? The origins of many carols, or dances in a ring, which is the word, as the word used to mean, predate the arrival of Christianity to these shores. Thousands of years earlier, pagan communities sang and danced in celebration of the seasons. But it is only the tradition of singing during the winter solstice that has survived to this day. Holly and ivy have long been associated with winter before the carol of that title was penned in the early 1800s. When a Roman bishop in AD 120 decreed that the song Angel's Hymn should be sung at a Christmas service in Rome, this was perhaps the first Christian carol ever to be sung. But those early carols were written in Latin, not a language that many people in England understood, and so the singing of Christian carols never really took off in England. However, in medieval times, wandering actors travelled from town to town acting out Bible stories to the gentry and the peasants, and as part of the play acting, carols were sung. The mummers were probably the first carol singers and got rewarded for their performances. Children nowadays carry on that tradition. The original text of In Dulce Jubilo in 1328 was a mixture of German and Latin. It moved to a combination of English and Latin in 1837, and that's largely what it remains. Its jolly tune meant it was quite quickly a success. One of the earliest carols, dating from the 16th century, was God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, and Charles Dickens referred to it in A Christmas Carol in 1843, when he described the first sound of God Bless You Merry Gentlemen being the start of the Christmas celebrations. Here We Come A-Wassailing dates from the 17th century, and We Wish You a Merry Christmas was sung in the 16th and 17th century before its current wording appeared in 1939. Both these carols initially were based upon traditional ballads and sung by groups of often poor people who went round the houses of the more wealthy seeking some Christmas cheer. The Victorian era saw carols grow in popularity. Old carols got smartened up. New carols were written. There were frequently changes to the original wording. Charles Wesley, the Methodist minister, had written a beautiful carol with the first two lines reading, "Hark how all the welkin rings, glory to the King of Kings." If I tell you that the third and fourth lines of his carol were, "Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled," then I think you can deduce which carol we're talking about. Carols became gentrified, and with the music composed by classical composers and famous poems providing the words. Hark the Herald Angels Sing had tunes variously composed by Handel, Mendelssohn and Wesley, and the music in the Bleak Midwinter, poem by Christina Rossetti, was penned by Gustav Holst. If this has sparked your interest, look up the origins of your favourite carols. You may be surprised.
No, that's a new one on me.
In 1692, he had a poet laureate. Poet laureate called Neyburn Turf, born in Dublin in 1652.
Did he write carols?
Yes, he wrote a very famous one, while shepherds watched their flocks by night.
The same story we heard in the Luke's reading today.
Nahum Tate chose the best story of all. Let's sing while shepherds watch.
tonight, so we will do the equivalent which you all are familiar with in the English version.
In the bleak midwinter is next. It did not start out as a carol.
How do you mean?
It was first published as a poem by the poet Christina Rossetti.
Wasn't she from a famous family?
Yes, her father was a poet and Dante scholar. He came to England from Italy as a political exile.
And don't forget her brother.
Oh yes, he was a Dante, Gabriele Rossetti, the pre-Raphaelite artist.
So let's sing The Bleak Midwinter and take note of those beautiful words.
Ring out wild bells to the wild sky, the flying cloud, the frosty light. The year is dying in the night. Ring out wild bells and let him die. Ring out the old, ring in the new. Ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let him go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Bring out the grief that saps the mind. For those that hear, we see no more. Ring out the feud of rich and poor. Ring in redress to all mankind. Ring out a slowly dying cause and ancient forms of party strife. Ring in the noble modes of life with sweeter manners, purer love. Ring out the want, the care, the sin, the faithless coldness of the time. Ring out, my mournful rhyme. Ring the fuller minstrel in. Ring out false pride in place and blood, the civic slander and the spite. Ring in the love of truth and right. Ring the common love of God, good. Ring out all shapes of foul disease. Ring out the narrowing lust of gold. Ring out the 1,000 wars of old. Ring in the 1,000 years of peace. Ring in the valiant man and free, the larger heart, the kindlier hand. Ring out the darkness of the land. Ring in the Christ that is to be.
You're switching on what we want.
Sorry.
Sorry. Oh, you can read that, I don't know.
Next, we're singing the first Noel. Noel sounds very French to me.
That's where you're mistaken. It's very English. It first originated in Cornwall, and Noel is the earliest English word for Christmas.
But did you know it was first published in Sandys collection of carols in 1833?
Shall we get on with it and sing it as we know it all about it now, the first Noel?
Thomas Hardy's father was heavily involved in village music. So it was no surprise that Thomas Hardy drew heavily on this in his early novel, Under the Greenwood Tree, particularly the movement from the local village choirs and bands towards the church taking over with harmoniums and organs for their church music. And that's a big theme in the book. However, part of it is a delightful description of the Christmas Eve carol rounds of the Mellstock village choir and band, and I'm going to read you part of that this evening. By this time it was quite late in the evening. You should know that for starters. So by this time they were crossing to a gate in the direction of the school, which, standing on a slight eminence at the junction of three ways, now rose in unvarying and dark flatness against the sky. The instruments were retuned, and all the band entered the school enclosure, enjoined by old William to keep upon the grass. "Number 78, he said softly, as they formed round in a semicircle, the boys opening the lanterns to get a clearer light and directing their rays on their books. Then passed forth into the quiet night an ancient and time-worn hymn, embodying a quaint Christianity in words orally transmitted from father to son through several generations, down to the present characters who sang them out right earnestly. Remember Adam's fall, O thou man. Remember Adam's fall from heaven to hell. Remember Adam's fall, how he hath condemned all in hell perpetual, there for to dwell. Remember God's goodness, O thou man. Remember God's goodness, his promise made. Remember God's goodness. He sent his Son, sinless, our ails for to redress. Be not afraid. In Bethlehem he was born, O thou man. In Bethlehem he was born for mankind's sake. In Bethlehem he was born, Christmas day of the morn. Our Saviour thought it no scorn, our fault to take. Give thanks to God alway, O thou man. Give thanks to God alway, with heart most joy. With thanks to God alway, on this our joyful day, let all men sing and say, Holy, holy. Having concluded the last note, they listened for a minute or two, but found that no sound issued from the schoolhouse. 4 breaths, and then, oh, what unbounded goodness! Number 59, said William. This was duly gone through, and no notice whatsoever seemed to be taken of their performance. Good goiters, surely it isn't an empty house, as befell us in the years 39 and 43, said old Dewey. Perhaps she's just come from some musical city and sneers at our doings, the tranter whispered. Ah, drap it at her, said Mr. Penny, with an annihilating look at the corner of the school chimney. I don't quite stomach her, if this is it. Your plain music well done is as worthy as your other sort done as badly. I say believe so. 4 breaths, and then the last, said the leader authoritatively. Rejoice, ye tenants of the earth, number 64. At the close, waiting yet another minute, he said in a clear, loud voice, as he had said in the village at that hour and season for the previous 40 years, A Merry Christmas, Steve! when the expected stillness consequent upon the exclamation had nearly died out of them all, an increasing light made itself visible in one of the windows of the upper floor. It came so close to the blind that the exact position of the flame could be perceived from the outside. Remaining steady for an instant, the blind went upward from before it, revealing to 30 concentrated eyes a young girl, framed as a picture by the window architrave and unconsciously illuminating her countenance to a vivid brightness by a candle she held in her left hand close to her face. Her bright eyes were looking into the grey world outside with an uncertain expression, oscillating between courage and shyness, which, as she recognised the semicircular group of dark forms gathered before her, transformed itself into pleasant resolution. Opening the window, she said lightly and warmly, "Thank you, singers, thank you." Together went the window quickly and quietly, and the blind started downward on its return to its place. Her fair forehead and eyes vanished, her little mouth, her neck and shoulders, all of her. Then the spot of candlelight shone nebulously as before, then it moved away. "How pretty!" exclaimed Dick Dewey. And you need to read the book to find out what happens.
You must stay at home. You must stay at home. You must stay at home. The words that changed our lives and possibly saved them. Even now, normal is still not normal. We stayed at home, but we could go out for exercise. People were looking for somewhere to go locally and away from other people, especially those at high risk. Over this period, York Cemetery was used by local people who were isolated and needed to social distance. And walk 30 metres into the cemetery and you are alone. in this tranquil and beautiful place. It became an ideal venue for people with young families, pushing pushchairs along the path, children gleefully running with excitement, a taste of freedom. An escape, but what a place to escape to. Trees and plants in full bloom. Then slowly, autumn, then winter. You get a more appreciation of the seasons when walking in the same place on a regular basis. Then, with the turn of the year, a walk along Lime Avenue in the winter sun, gigantic shadows of these magnificent trees that have been growing for 100 of years, streaming across the landscape. And in between these trees, snowdrops emerging, bowing their heads to the wind and the weather. But what a sight to see. Nature starting on its yearly cycle, birth, renewal of the land, but also a year of joyous and hope. Narcissi, the daffodils, ventured out in all their glory, a plethora of yellow. So many visitors over time have planted a few daffs, and now they cover the cemetery like a woven carpet of yellow, heads reaching to the sky towards the sun. On a Sunday walk, I counted over 40 varieties of different daffodils, and it's such a cheer that things may get a bit better. Purple crocuses enrich the front lawn with their vibrant colour, a real showstopper. 17,000 had been planted over the years to commemorate the eradication of polio from this planet. The purple signifies that those children who've had the vaccine, their left little finger is dipped in purple dye. Then we got the cherry blossom and the almond blossom, trees in bloom, pink and white little flowers fluttering down, slow but surely, and landing amongst the trees, falling on the bluebells who are hid away amongst the trees. But as spring ends and summer starts to evolve, the hawthorn flower shows off its splendour in readiness for May Day. And if you are lucky, there is one more tree to end springtime. It's the snowdrop tree, an insignificant, I'll get right, small tree, but in May it puffs itself up in all its glory and profusion just before the foliage unfolds. A surprise for visitors who wonder what type of tree it may be. But the last tree to flower in the cemetery is the tulip tree in July, a native of the USA, and cup-shaped flowers of white and green and red. An attractive tree whose ancestors date back thousands of years. This species, a survivor of the dinosaur era, and still produces flowers for our pleasure. People have commented on their visit to the cemetery, say it is an haven of escape, a retreat from the bad news, away from the turmoil, uncertainty and confusion of the times. Throughout the lockdown and the effects of coronavirus, visitors have come to admire nature at its best while taking their daily exercise outside. A safe environment enriched with all the pleasures of nature. And we stayed at home, but ventured out a short distance to enjoy this oasis in the city. Thank you. we can all be seated, please, and then we'll distribute what we're having, fruit punch and mince pies. And there's a fair array of mince pies. Well, it's been grand, hasn't it? Yes. Just like to say a few thank yous. Here we have Robin on the keyboard, heard but not seen. Thank you, Robin. Contrelli, who's travelled all the way from Leeds to I've got it wrong.
Let's just make this right. Yeah. Darrell is from Huddersfield. The three of us here are from Hebden Bridge. He's only the man from York, the only one. And this man's from Leeds. The only man from Leeds. Right. One of them.
Okay.
If you are in Hebden Bridge or Todmorden on Sunday, we will be singing in Hope Chapel in Hebden Bridge at 6 o'clock in the evening, but before that at St Mary's Parish Church in Todmorden at 3:30. Wow. And it's in aid of our local food bank. Thank you for having us.
I'll do that one again. Contarelli, who have travelled from all parts of the world to entertain us tonight with such delightful song and music. Thank you. And the Bolton Percy handringers, thank you very much, have delighted us. And they brightened up our evening with their chimes. You must have heard it before. And Chris Fielder, who's at the back from Fielder's Funeral Directors, he's been streaming us tonight. So what you can do when you go home, you can see it again and again and again. And I'd just like to thank all the trustees, friends, volunteers who have taken part tonight performing, and especially to Claire. Your dad owes you one, Claire. People who are serving, the punch makers, and especially the mince pie bakers. I think there's that many, we'd have 2 each tonight. A special thank you to Angela, who's really pulled this all together, and Dorothy Penso, who can't be with us tonight, but who produced a programme for us. And of course, last but not least, your good selves. Thank you very much for turning out tonight, even with the doors open. We've all been so good. Nobody's run off and gone home to get warm. I hope you enjoyed the concert, and if you'd like to show your appreciation, there's a retiring collection on the way out. But just like to wish everyone a happy Christmas. And I was going to say a prosperous New Year, but I don't think we've the chance of that next year. So I'd just like to wish you all a happy Christmas and a healthy New Year. Have a safe journey home.